Hello students and namaste everyone. I am Dhaval sir and our today's topic is from your standard ninth literature part unit number 10 Kathmandu by Vikram from his novel Heaven Lake. Right, so basically we have already completed two lectures of this chapter. In the first lecture we had seen the introduction as well as the detailed summary of this chapter, and in the second lecture we had read and understood till paragraph number 4. So remaining paragraph, that is paragraph number 5, 6, 7, 8, will continue and end in this lecture. Okay, so let us begin with paragraph number 5 and try to understand it. Okay, I considered what route I should take back home if I were propelled by enthusiasm for travel per se. Okay, so the writer, that is Vikram Sheth, is at Nepal. Okay, and he is planning to go back to Delhi. Okay, so what he is saying, I consider what route means that is by air or rail or by road. So by what route I should take back home. So he is thinking about coming back to home by different ways or by waterway, right? So he had planned to come through waterway also. Okay, so if I were propelled means to push or drive. So if I were propelled by enthusiasm, that means if was very much filled with enthusiasm for travel per se, right? For travel per se means by itself. Okay, I would go by bus and a train to Patna. Okay, so if he's saying that if I'm having a lot of enthusiasm and energy left in me, then I'll travel. How I'll travel? So he's saying that I'll go by bus and train to Patna, then sail up the Ganges, that is the Ganga river, past Banaras to Allahabad. So that he'll go by inland water transport, that is through the boat, then up the Yamuna past Agra to Delhi. Okay, so he's saying that if I was left with full energy and enthusiasm, then I would have traveled like this. But what he's saying, but I am too exhausted and homesick. Homesick means a person who cannot live away from home. Okay, so he's saying that I am too much exhausted and homesick. That means now he is not having much energy left. Okay, and he's saying today is the last day of August. Go home, I tell myself. So he's saying that I must go home, move directly towards home. That means he's saying that he should not travel by bus, train, and through the water transportation. So he's saying that I'll move directly towards home. I So what he is doing, I enter the Nepal Airlines office and buy a ticket for tomorrow's flight. Okay, so he is cancelling all his plan and he decides to reach home at the earliest by taking a flight. I look at the flute seller standing in a corner of the square near the hotel. Okay, in his hand is a pole. Pole means a bamboo stick with an attachment at the top from which 50 or 60 bansuri means flute, protrude means it is popping out. Okay, in all the directions. So we have seen that this is a rope, then here 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 everywhere there are flutes, right? You might have seen a person selling the flute. So it is popping out in all the directions. Okay, and it looks like the squeals of a porcupine. So porcupine, you might have seen, it is a kind of animals. Okay, so the writer is comparing the pole and its basuris with the porcupine. Okay, it is the animal which is having uh, very pointed, sharp, right, stings at its body. Okay, further, they are of bamboo. They are cross flutes and recorders. From time to time, he stands the pole on the ground, selects a flute, and plays for a few minutes. The sound rises clearly above the noise of the traffic and the hawkers' cries. Hawkers' cries means the hawkers are shouting for selling their things, right? He plays slowly, meditatively, without excessive display. That means he doesn't want to show off to anyone, right? He's lost in his own thoughts, okay, and he's just playing the music and enjoying it, okay. He does not shout out his wares, so he's not trying to shout loudly to sell the basuris or the flute. Occasionally, he makes a sale. That means if any person is interested in buying the flute, then he'll go to the flute seller and he will purchase it. But in a curiously off-handed way. Off-handed means casual, not showing much interest in something. So, but in a curiously off-handed way, as if this were incidental to his enterprise. Okay, sometimes he breaks off playing to talk to the fruit seller. That means the flute seller, okay, the flute seller sometimes stops playing the flute, and it shows that he is not much interested in selling the flute and is in a very relaxed mood, okay, and at that same time he is even talking to the fruit sellers and the people around, okay. I imagine that this has been the pattern of his life for years, okay. So next, seventh para. I find it difficult to tear myself away from the square. That means he is saying, the writer is saying that it is very difficult for me to go away from that place. Okay, why? Because the flute seller is playing the music in such a such a wonderful way that anyone can get attracted towards him. Okay, flute music always does this to me. It is at once the most universal and most particular of sounds. Right? We all have heard the flute of Sri Krishna in serials or movies or anywhere. So easily any person gets attracted towards its sound. Right? That is the power of the flute. There is no culture that does not have its flute. Okay, the reed ne. So reed ne is a type of a flute. The recorder, the Japanese, uh, the Japanese shakuchai, shakuchai, the deep bansuri of Hindustani classical music, the clear or breathy flutes of South America, right? So these are the different types of flutes in different countries. The high pitched Chinese flutes, each has its specific fingering and compass. Right? We have seen in Basuri, it is played with the fingers by placing it at different holes in it. It weaves its own associations, yet to hear any flute is, it seems to me, to be drawn into the commonality of all mankind. Okay, to be moved by music, closest in its phrases and sentences to the human voice. It is its motive force too is living breath. It too needs to pause and breath before it can go on. Okay. So what he is saying that yet to hear any flute is, it seems to me, to be drawn into the commonality. Okay, commonality means common quality or feature shared by people. So commonality of all mankind, to be moved by the music closet in its phrases and sentences to the human voice. So he's saying that usually all the people, they easily get attracted towards the music, and the same thing is with me, what the writer is saying, and he's saying that I also easily get attracted towards the music. Okay, next, that I can be so affected by a few familiar phrases on the basuri surprises me at first. For on the previous occasions that I have returned home after a long absence abroad, I have hardly noticed such details and certainly have not visited them with the significance I now do. Right. So what the writer is saying, that I can be so affected by a few familiar phrases on the basuri surprises me at first. That means he himself gets very much surprised because he is so much attracted and influenced by the playing of the music on basuri. For on the previous occasions that I have returned home after a long absence abroad, I have hardly noticed such details and certainly have not invested them with the significance I now do. That means usually when the person is traveling for traveling a long distance, he is usually very tired and he doesn't have much energy left with him, so that he can notice such details, right, in the place surrounding him. But Kathmandu is such a place where he is able to notice each and everything because he cannot resist, okay, himself at having a look around the small things which is very beautiful and attractive. So this is what the writer is trying to explain it to us, right? So that's it about the chapter. Here the chapter gets over, and I'll also end my lecture over here. And I thank you everyone for watching my video.